Hello, everybody. I'm very honored and excited to be here and to be talking to you for this time that we have together about how we can really get to the root of our habits that are self-defeating. So here we go. It's telling me I need to do something about the frame on this, but I think I will ignore it. Do I need to change the frame specification? It's telling me I'm below the requirement. Are you able to hear me going live now? Okay, so we're going to ignore that and hope that everything's okay. All right. Can you hear me on the live? It's telling me that my frame specification is under the requirement, but it is showing that I'm live. Can you hear me on live? Okay. Okay, great. He's saying he can hear me. Sorry about that. Okay, amazing. So we're jumping in and we're talking about why it is that we seem to very easily be faced with habits that are really, really difficult, and they seem to really block us from what we know is our potential, what we know is our higher self. We seem to hit up against these habits. So I want to share with you some very practical ways that you can start changing your habits. Okay, and this is going to be based on from a number of different places, which I will try to share with you as best as we can. But we're going to fit in what we can because I really want you to come away with tools to get started. This is not a simple endeavor. Okay, our habits tend to be very deeply rooted, and so we're going to start by just starting to expand our awareness of what this is really all about, what the habits, where the habits develop, why they develop, and we're going to go on a little journey where I'm going to have you do some exercises with me. Okay, so I want you to all bring to mind right now a particular habit that you have, so we can really, with our intentions, be focused on a specific thing that you want to change, okay? And I want to center together, but bring that to mind first. Any habit, like in your life, whether it be maybe a food habit, maybe it be like a lifestyle habit, maybe going to bed too late, okay? Or food habits, we all tend to have plenty of those. So just pick something. Better not to pick something too difficult. But start with something not too difficult. Okay, so we're going to center. So bring that to mind, and then you can close your eyes for a moment. And we're just going to notice the breath in the body. Notice how your body's feeling right now. And noticing your hands and your feet, and just feeling the inhale and the exhale. So we're just coming into the present moment. Okay, we're going to talk about this more, but one of the biggest blocks to changing our habits is our mind. And so through different centering practices, breathing practices, so we'll breathe together for a moment, we can actually shift out of our left brain functioning, which is how we function most of the time, and we can move into our right brain functioning. This is the mode where our right brain can become activated. We can learn to do this more in our life, and by doing so, become able to access the space of healing and our soul guidance, okay? Feeling more connected to that deeper part of ourself. Okay, so your eyes still closed. Let's breathe just for a moment. You're going to exhale completely and then inhale. 2, 3, 4. Follow along with me. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. And exhale. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. And exhale. 2, 3, 4. Let's take 2 more breaths. In. 2, 3, 4. And out. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. And out. 2, 3, 4. And then just let your breath come back to a natural rhythm. And I want you to bring to mind the habit that I just asked you to think about. That there's this part of you that knows that this habit is self-defeating, that this habit is blocking you from actualizing your potential. Okay. And I want you to now see if we could go above the habit and envision yourself without the habit and start to feel into this potential that you know you would, that you have, and who would you be without this habit. And I want you to just feel what that's like without this habit. Feeling a lot more, a sense of alignment, more of a sense of a flow. Good. So we're going to be there for one more moment. You can just feel a lightness in your being with this new habit. Breathe into this place of being in this new way. Okay, good. And then when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed that, and it may have brought things up for you, because the truth is that changing habits, as I started to say, can be extremely difficult. It's not just a matter of like visualizing the new way of being. There's a lot more that goes into it, okay? And why is that? Well, the reason why our habits in general, we're talking about self-defeating habits, come into play, if we could really boil it down to one thing, we're going to boil it down to the fact that we have a survival-based wiring in our brain that is behind many of our behaviors, at least our unconscious behaviors. Our self-defeating habits would go into that category. So what does this mean about this survival-based way of functioning? What that means in terms that I think you could probably all relate to is that we are, in general, trying to avoid feeling anything that's uncomfortable. And so this basic part of us in our brain really is dictating our behavior and is the root for why many of our habits have formed in the first place. Of course, it would require like deeper inquiry, and we can do this together. But we want to understand just that we tend to be going through our life, avoiding things that are uncomfortable, feelings that are uncomfortable, experiences that are uncomfortable, anything that makes us feel uncomfortable. And we're trying to gravitate towards the things that make us feel good and comfortable. Okay, this is, of course, as I'm saying, it's a survival mechanism. It's meant to help us in situations where there's actually danger, that is, we're really like, there's a threat, right? However, this cannot differentiate to all the other places in our life where we actually are okay. We are not in danger physically, and even emotionally, there are times when we don't feel safe. And this is actually one of the reasons why these bad habits form for many people, because when a person doesn't feel safe emotionally, they are going to suppress their emotions in order to not go there. It's a protection. And then we're going to gravitate towards a new habit, a different behavior that's going to cover over those emotions, feelings that we can't really deal with, because either we're not safe to deal with it or it's just uncomfortable. So even when that maybe original experience of discomfort is no longer the case, the habits continue on, because we automate our behaviors. That is the way we function. And it can be really for the good, because it can clear our awareness to go towards the things that are going to support us to thrive, right? However, we're going to automate everything. That is the way the brain works. So we will, unless we bring in the consciousness and the awareness and the tools to change the habits, that gets automated. And then maybe what was ever originally unsafe, what was originally the threat, what was originally the feeling that was too uncomfortable, the situation changes, but the feeling is still uncomfortable, and we're still functioning until we reach a point in our spiritual journey where we are ready to make a profound shift in the way we're functioning. We're going to keep going away from what feels uncomfortable, even when we're safe now and all that stuff from when it originally started is no longer. Okay, so let's do a little exercise to understand how this behavior, this habit, came to help us. Okay, I'd like everybody to just begin to accept the assumption that I'm suggesting right now, that basically your habit came to help you, actually, in disguise, because it turned out to be like a negative, self-defeating behavior. But the true reason why it came was from this innate place in us that is surviving and trying to get us away from danger and trying to get us in a way where we can manage the best that we possibly can. So this behavior comes in. So I'd like you for a moment to think about your habit as like a acquaintance, a friend, somebody who came into your life at a particular time when you needed help. So think about when it was that you could first remember having this habit. And then I'd like you to we're going to make the habit be its own entity for a moment. And I really hope that you can use this moving forward. This has been tremendously helpful for many of the people I've worked with. So I'd like you to choose a name of the habit, like definitely not a negative name. It could be neutral, a name that you really like, Joe, Sue. Pick a name, a real name, as if this is like a companion who has come to help you, okay? So picking this name, and then I want you to take a moment. I want you to cultivate right now just this alternate perspective of this habit, of this person who came to help you, and you can like relate, use the name, okay? And I want you to ask this person, this friend, acquaintance, like what it was coming to help you with. What did you really need at that time in your life that you weren't able to get? Okay. So, for example, with food habits, what can happen very frequently is that a negative food habit, way of eating, or types of foods come in because a person is not feeling loved enough or cared for enough or nurtured enough. They don't feel like they have like the proper emotional support that they need. And so that's where a lot of self-defeating food habits can come in. So in that example, and you can apply this to whatever you're working with, I want you to make this flip in your mind where just for at least this next moment or two, you're not relating to it negatively. I know you don't like this habit and you want it to change, right? But I want to start just to see this perspective that the habit is helping you. And I want you to see if you can come up with just one way that this habit came to help you. So with these food behaviors, like I've heard it just so many times from the people I've worked with, they give a name. Let's say the name of this way of eating, let's say compulsively, is Mary, and then, or Melissa, let's go with Melissa, okay? And let's say Melissa, really came to help me to feel more loved and nurtured and cared for, and like that I had emotional support when I was going through difficulty, when I was feeling scared, when I was feeling alone and afraid. So I want you to do that. Just take 10 more seconds to see if you can think about this. If you have a pen or something, that's great. You can jot something down. Okay. All right. So this habit, again, we're just starting with like shifting perspective. So another new perspective on your habit that is super, super important. And this is a teaching from the Piaseczner Rebbe, a rabbi from Piaseczner, Poland, is that our habits actually are access points to our soul. And that he has many, many amazing teachings. I'll see if I have time to share a little bit more with you about how we need to work on as our practice, working on getting into those access points and using techniques to establish connection with our soul, as well as breaking through our emotional blocks. He says that the reason why we are not more regularly connected to our soul is because we are emotionally blocked. Okay? So just as a very introductory approach to changing habits, we want to have in our mind the two most powerful ways that we're going to truly change habits for the long term. This is a spiritual solution. I mean, people are going, sometimes someone successfully stops a habit, but they haven't addressed the deeper issue. And then what happens in those cases is that either they just eventually like go back to the habit, they can't maintain it, or that self-defeating energy, that pull, gets transferred onto a different self-defeating behavior. So it is just so absolutely important to get to the root. And so when I'm working with people, I can't, unfortunately, people want quick fixes because that's sort of the way our society has taught us to look for quick fixes. But the thing is, it just doesn't work. So what I want to strongly encourage everyone to keep in mind is that we need to deal with the root, and then there are some amazing behavior rewiring techniques that I see work so quickly with helping people change their habits. However, they don't work so quickly when people haven't done this preliminary foundational work, okay? So I feel like I don't want to give you too much, but I hope you're following me. So what I want to give you is to work on two main areas of habit change before you get to your actual behavior that I had you identify. We're backtracking now, okay? And so this has to do with what I was just saying from this wonderful teaching about being emotionally blocked. Okay, we need to backtrack and break it down to the subtle ways that we are functioning mentally and emotionally. Okay, because if we can start to identify the mental habits and the emotional habits that are underlying this physical habit that we want to change and start changing those habits, well, then we've created the foundation for us to then be able to implement pretty simple techniques. And by the way, sometimes the techniques aren't even needed when someone changes their mental and emotional habits, because then the change starts to happen organically. Someone's feeling empowered in a way that they like really never felt before. So the change can be organic. So, okay, I want everybody now to start doing some of this work. If you have a pen or just mentally do this exercise, I want you to think of one mental habit that is a pattern in your life, meaning a type of thinking, a way of thinking, or a thought like that runs through your mind repeatedly, okay? Something negative, a negative way of thinking that you go to, okay? So that's on the mental side. Come up with that mental habit, okay? And then we want to go to the emotional side. That's actually really the key. The mental blocks us from really getting into the emotional blocks. Like I said, we're emotionally blocked. That's really the reason, that is the reason why we cannot change our habits and why we're not able to access the soul energy that is going to fuel the habit change. Okay, so here we go. I want you to think of one way that you are emotionally sort of replaying over and over. What's the way that you just tend to feel when you're stressed? Like overwhelm is a really big one, or fear. Okay, any of these, alone. Okay, I want you to just come up with an emotional habit, a patterned way of feeling emotionally. Okay. And then taking it the next step. So this teaching from the PSSner is just amazing. It's from his book translated called Conscious Community. So he talks about how the key to reconnecting to our soul is by starting to observe all of our inner happenings, mentally, emotionally, and our physical sensations. So there's a lot of skills that we basically, when learned, are going to enable us to develop mastery on changing our emotions and changing our mental way of functioning. So you want to just stop for a moment. Take this emotional energy that I asked you to think of. And for a moment, we only have a few minutes left. I wish we had more time. So for a moment, I want you to observe the emotional energy and just get to know it. And the most important thing here is that I want you to start to see that maybe this is not threatening. I want you to just accept it, that it's okay to feel this way. Breathe into it and just accept it, that it's okay. It's actually just an energy in your body. And by learning how to feel with it, work with it, and process it, which can teach you another time, you will be on your way to changing your habits. That is absolutely 100% key, okay? There's so much I wanted to do. I actually prepared a whole bunch more. Let me just give you one more thing now. So practically, what I want you to do is I want you to pick something super easy that you are going to do in the morning differently. So for example, we just want to start to rewire the brain and start feeling a little more empowered. This is coming from a different angle, and this is also just going to help get the muscle of change and feeling okay with something that's new, which is something uncomfortable. So again, we go away from that and we suppress how we're feeling, and then we act out in our habits. So tying your shoe, let's say you always tie your shoe on the right side. Starting from tomorrow morning, I want you to tie your shoe from the left side. And I want you to say to yourself, I am starting my day in a new way. I am running my day in a new way. And just choose the simplest, easiest possible thing. But you did it before by habit. And now you're going to bring mindfulness and awareness in order to enable you to change. This is the building block of changing a more difficult habit. Is we're going to do all these things to bring mindfulness, awareness, start learning how to identify our mental blocks and our emotional blocks, and then learning how to process the emotions, because emotions have a natural cycle where when we allow that to happen, and again, this is connected to our soul, the emotions release and we get wisdom from the soul. So they are literally a lifeline to our soul, the habits, the emotions underneath the habits. So I hope this was a helpful session for you. I have a couple of courses coming up in a couple of months, right after Passover, and a few different events. So check those out on my website, and just feel free to be in touch. My website is innerwellsprings.com, and it's been such a pleasure to be with you all, and I hope that you can continue with what I've shared and that you're excited about taking it farther, and just knowing that you really do have the power. I've seen miraculous change on people who have tried so many things and have started to feel hopeless. Not to despair, and to know that you really do have the power, and it's just about learning the skills to change your operating system emotionally, mentally, physically, and of course spiritually, which is this whole picture. So thank you so much, everybody. Many blessings, and I hope to hear from you. Blessings.